Well, happy Friday morning to you. I'm standing here on the porch that overlooks Dick Kelly Park. This is where we get to preach on Sunday mornings to everyone. I have to tell you, it is very empowering to stand up here and have the privilege of preaching and helping lead worship. But today I want to focus on times in our lives where we may feel powerless. And it may be related to our own things going on in our lives. But often it has to do with those in our lives, like our children or our parents or our siblings or our friends, where we feel powerless to help them. In 1939, there was a life-changing book in America written by an author named Bill W. And we later learned that is Bill Wilson. His book was entitled Alcoholics Anonymous: The Story of How More Than 100 Men Recovered from Alcoholism. 100 men in 1939. Think of that for a second. Of course, it was that 12-step program, that marvelous program, that deals with the 12 steps to help through recovery of alcoholism. And the very first step is admitting to the powerlessness facing all who suffer from alcohol addiction. Admitting that. And then it goes on, those beautiful steps, to say that we admit those things, but we recognize a higher power that can give us strength. And we examine our past errors with the help of a sponsor. We make amends for those errors. And then we learn a new life with a new code of behavior, helping others who suffer as well in those beautiful ways to go and help those that need help. But that step one is we admit we are powerless over our addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable. And it references Psalm 38, which is, I hope you will spend your devotion time this morning reading that entire psalm. Verse 3 says for us, "There is no soundness in my flesh because of your anger. Neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin." And he goes on to say, "My guilt has overwhelmed me like a burden too heavy to bear." Well, my mother was an alcoholic. In fact, most of my adult life, she suffered from mental illness and alcohol addiction and pain medicine addiction. And there were many, many times in my life where I felt powerless. And I know there's many times in her life where she felt powerless. And she finally decided to go to Alcoholics Anonymous and go through this 12-step program. And I have to tell you, when that first happened, I was embarrassed by all of this. I was angry. I felt that, Alcoholics Anonymous, that can do no good. It's just a sham. And I just had no regard for it. And like most things in my life, I was absolutely wrong on that one. She had a wonderful sponsor named Sam. My mom had 3 occasions where she tried to commit suicide after my father had passed away and she was living alone. And one of those times she was in Huntsville and she actually drank everything in the house, took every pill she could, drove off the side of Montesano Mountain in Huntsville. If you know that area below the overlook, you know how high up that is. Well, nobody saw her when she did that, and nobody knew where she was, and she was gone for 3 days and missing. And I came up from Birmingham and stayed at our family's house alone, and the first night I was there was this knock on the door. And it was Sam, and he came and gave me a big hug, and he said, "Do you have an extra bedroom?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "I just want to stay here and be here with you." And each of those nights that my mom was missing, Sam would show up late afternoon and evening, and we would have a meal together, and he would stay with me. And what a gift that was. Well, we are taught in the psalm that we need to admit our powerlessness, but we also need to call on the one that will respond. And in verse 15, it says, "In you, O Lord, is my hope. You will give me an answer, O Lord, my God." And we cry out to God, and sometimes he may be far away, and it may seem like there is nothing going on. But here's the good news. God is always there. God is always present, just like Sam was. Sam's presence was there. And we found my mother, and she turned out to be okay, and that was a blessing. But I never will forget the love and the care that he extended. There's times in our lives where we feel powerless. I pray that you will look at this Psalm 38 and be assured of the words when we cry out to God to not forsake us. We are blessed ultimately with these words. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. God is with us in all that we do. And thanks be to God. Amen and amen.